Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Let's take a look at the headlines. Cleanup efforts ongoing as residents praise government for sending help their way. The Attorney General says history helps to give an indication of where a nation is headed. And author and historian Michael Anthony launches his second book for the year in commemoration of Trinidad and Tobago's golden anniversary of independence. Thank you for joining us. Reports of landslides, floods, uprooted trees were noted as Trinidad and Tobago felt the effect of the outer bands of Tropical Storm Isaac. Several parts of the country were inundated with water following heavy rains from as early as 4 a.m. Thursday. News 4 visited several communities in the capital city where cleanup efforts were ongoing, and residents echoed praises to the government for sending help their way.
Following heavy rain showers this morning, reports that several parts of Trinidad were underwater became quickly widespread. However, when News 4 took to the streets in and around the capital city, the waters had subsided. Mud, slush, debris, rocks everywhere. Residents are doing their best to restore what was lost after the floods. However, they express thanks and gratitude, saying that they are grateful for all the help they have received from the resilient residents, the first responders, URP, and also the government. It's only been 2 weeks since the people of West Trinidad and Diego Martin had been trying to restore their community following the floods that took with it 2 lives. However, the government is doing all in its power to help each citizen who has been affected by the disaster. Help was evident today as cleanup operations were ongoing. CPEP and URP gangs were out in their numbers. Residents thanked the government for responding quickly to their pleas for help.
Very good, because what happened since the flood started, I live right there. And when I called for help, well, the first person came was the CPEP gang. And then the URP was there, and the neighbors around came out and gave a hand.
Ms. Susan says the floods had destroyed her property.
I find the effort is very good, because up to now the government have people cleaning the river, and yesterday they use manpower to go under the bridge because they can't use the machinery to go underneath the bridge. So use manpower, and the workers went under the bridge and cleaned it. And it's a good thing because the staff might have go back there and fill up the stuff, because they will clean this river. For the whole week they're cleaning the river.
The Ministry of Works and Infrastructure has also deployed workmen at various routes throughout the country to clear debris from the roadways. Some commuters were trapped, but the problem was addressed speedily. We met this cleanup gang along the North Coast Road.
Well, for today, we're trying to get the bamboo off the road, whatsoever fallen trees off the road, so the public could be able to pass freely.
Tell me, what areas have you all visited so far?
Well, so far, Santa Cruz undercover. We head into as far as Maracas now to see what's happening on the road, to see what assistance we can give.
He says it's in times like these that we need to look out for one another.
Well, it's the act of God. And, this is something that we could never prepare for. This is something that nature happens along the road, and we just had to try and make sure everybody is safe.
We also caught up with another cleanup gang who was working feverishly, trying to clear the road from a fallen tree.
As a matter of fact, with the heavy rains and windfall from the stormy weather conditions that we experienced, this tree here fell onto the roadway. As a matter of fact, it fell onto a vehicle. Luckily and fortunately, and thank God for this, the driver, no vehicle sustained any major damage. It all went quite well. And this happened almost just about an hour and a half ago. And within that time, we were able to mobilize all the state agencies, TNTech, our disaster unit, and this is where we are. And in a few minutes' time, we'll be able to restore the traffic at least on one side of the highway here.
The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management would like to thank citizens for their continued cooperation and urges citizens to remain cautious and monitor media networks for weather bulletins from the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service for the most current weather conditions. Remember that affected persons can contact the Emergency Contact Center at 511 to make a report. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
Attorney General, the Honorable Anand Ramlogan, says history helps to give an indication of where the nation is headed. He was speaking at the newly restored and renovated old Cabildo building, Sackville Street, Port of Spain, which was reopened as the Cabildo Law Museum.
The old Cabildo building, a national heritage site which was in a dilapidated state, has been restored by the Office of the Attorney General. Addressing the opening ceremony of what is now the Cabildo Law Museum, Attorney General Anand Ramlogan says the museum would serve to chronicle the development of Trinidad and Tobago's legal system, as well as detailing the history and work of past Attorneys General. He says the restoration works were financed using surplus funds from his office's budget allocation and revealed that the cost of the project has been estimated at approximately $300,000. He reveals that the new structure will play a great part in the development of the country as it helps to reflect on the past and determine the future.
We understand at this ministry the symbolism of this building. We have sought to preserve its significance and its architectural integrity throughout the restoration project. When I came to this office and assumed the position of Attorney General, that building was not really on the radar. And when it was brought to my attention that it existed as part of the ministry, I immediately toured that building and took the view that that building is part of our history that we must preserve and protect.
The museum is expected to feature documents and manuscripts originally stored at the building, but were removed after its use had declined. A.J. Ramlogan notes that the new development is most timely in light of this country's golden independence anniversary.
We sought to actively engage the intellect and imagination of all those who have stepped through those great doors. It is my hope that visitors will have an awe-inspiring experience as they engage with the displays and allow the history that those walls witnessed to whisper into their ears. The Ministry of the Attorney General, in commemorating our 50th anniversary independence, is pleased, therefore, to be part of this process to commemorate our history and our past. Our 50th year of our nation's independence has brought it to a critical juncture, politically and socially, and the time has come to us to prove that we have grown as a nation and, more importantly, to show how we have grown. The museum at this time will allow citizens to have a recorded legal history of the last 50 years in their country. It highlights the critical role attorneys general have played in the architecture and development of our legal system, and it is also a tangible reminder of the hard work, dedication, and sacrifice that all past attorneys general have given to the service of this country and its people.
The elaborate and highly sophisticated furniture which adorned the rooms of the small one-story building was said to be handcrafted in the United States. The center of the building hosts a shaded courtyard featuring a sculpted fountain. Veena Bharath, News 4.
News 4 continues after the break. Stay with us.
Carjacking has become very prevalent in recent times. Certain makes of vehicles are more preferred targets for criminals. When approaching intersections or junctions, ensure that all doors are locked and windows are wound up if possible. Remember, crime prevention is everyone's business. A message from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Welcome back. The Hindu Prachar Kendra, in collaboration with NCIC and Radio Heritage, hosted a panel discussion to honor former parliamentarians from 1962 to 1971. The former politicians shared some of their most memorable life experiences at a time when technology was not accessible. It's the first Parliamentarians' Eminent Panel discussion of its kind and was chaired under the theme Memory Festival.
The event seeks to honor former politicians who served this country in the 60s and 70s. This auspicious occasion also commemorates this country's 50 years of independence. The parliamentarians shared their remarkable journeys.
Entry into politics, in my case, came about, I wouldn't say accidentally, but was a follow-up of what happened before my entry into politics. My father was a senior citizen of the El Socorro Sama community. And he usually presided over, because we lived opposite Chanka Maharaj's house. And my father was the president of the panchayat. You know what is a panchayat? Whenever they have disputes among the people, they will summon the panchayat, and the panchayat used to give a fatwa. Fatwa means a decision as to what should be done. And during those days, I was a young, I used to take notes. So I followed everything they said, and I became quite accustomed to problems relating to one person and another, religious people, political people, and so on.
Former parliamentarian Bal Gobind Ramdeen recalled the fond moments during his career as a politician. Mr. Ramdeen says this memory festival is a reflection of our journey as an independent nation, and that one must understand that the stage for self-governance was set prior to 1962. This was manifested by heightened political activity, the clamor for proper and effective representation, the growth of political parties, groups and influential leaders.
I have never been afraid of challenges, and I have never been afraid of the odds against me, because I believe as a Hindu, if God is with you, then there can be no odds against you, because God alone is the majority. And so my life has been lived, and I went into politics. I didn't, as I say, ask for a seat, but Rudranath Kapileu had learned in London about the man called Cassandra. Nobody knew who he was, because that was my deal with the editor, an Englishman. Nobody must know, because I'd be sacked from my job in the county council.
Mr. Ramdeen is urging all parliamentarians to remain vigilant and uphold the principles of this country's democracy, and to remember the great responsibility with which they had been entrusted.
Eric Williams is the father of the country. We may not have recognized others, but Eric Williams was the man who led us into independence. We would have got it in any case, because once India had got it, the British had decided we will give them the independence. They'll have the problems of carrying on the country, and we will get all we want out of the country by fixing up the right people. So this thing of politics, if you think politicians go in there to become servant of the people, you better think carefully.
Among other former parliamentarians were Hans Hanumansingh, one of Kanupia's most illustrious sons, who led an extraordinary life decade to journalism in radio and television. He says his career as a politician was a tempt fate when in 1966, at age 24, he went into national politics and became the youngest member of parliament in the Commonwealth.
I declined the offer to be editor of The Statesman, and a few days later, I met Patrick Chokolingo, who was at The Guardian and The Express and was the publisher of The Bomb, which came later on. He met me on Frederick Street and said, "What a crazy young man are you? You are giving up this opportunity to be editor of the official organ of the DLP."
Mr. Hanumansingh says he became aware of the charms and dangers of politics and quietly exited after a single term and turned instead to the promotion of local Indian culture. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
Author and historian Michael Anthony has launched his second book for the year in commemoration of Trinidad and Tobago's golden anniversary of independence. From sportsmen Sonny Ramadan and Bran Lara to artists Beryl McBurney and Bosco Holder, and labor leaders Uriah Butler and Captain Andrew Cipriani, the book focuses on 50 of this country's nation builders. As Michael Anthony puts it, the book reflects the 50 years since that bright new day of August 31st, 1962.
In tribute of Trinidad and Tobago's golden anniversary of independence, author and historian Michael Anthony has launched a new book titled Builders of the Nation of Trinidad and Tobago. The book seeks to pay homage to 50 men and women who have toiled to build Trinidad and Tobago in the various areas of arts, music, sports, science, labor and law, to name a few. In remembering one of the many founding fathers, Michael Anthony notes the important role played by Captain Andrew Cipriani in establishing labor policies in this country.
The reason why he became a labor leader was because he was trying so hard to get the men. He told the government, these men should have come back to a country for heroes to live in, but you are neglecting them. So he tried to get jobs for them everywhere, and people began trying to be like the soldiers and going to Cipriani, and he realized that the people needed a man like him, or a man like himself then, to sort of talk to them about labor. And he taught them a very important lesson. It's very simple. If you are in a job that you don't like, the unity of the workers is what tells. Let them unite and let them withdraw their labor, and the company will crumble.
Speaking at the book launch, chairman of UTT, Professor Kenneth Ramchan, says the book reveals historical marvels and the gems we have in citizens who have served Trinidad and Tobago, reflecting the true diversity that makes up our nation.
It is true of our language, our food, our clothes, our music, our culture, our religions. To understand this is to understand the challenge of evolving a unique system of education based not on imported theory or on business models, but on the innovation and originality that comes naturally out of the fusion society that we are, what we are, and how we live.
And as this country celebrates its gold medal at this year's Olympics, Anthony notes that one of the sporting icons who is often forgotten is sprinter Manny Duki, who ran barefoot while representing this nation at the Olympic level.
The courage he showed in trying to run with his feet all cut up made him a very popular character. And he came back to Trinidad on the Coronado, as you well said, and Cipriani Cipriani minted a gold medal for him. So when we say Trinidad West won 2 gold medals, that's not true.
This is Michael Anthony's 31st book, and the second one he has produced this year following Christopher Columbus, a close look at the man and his voyages, which was launched in June. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
Sport is up right after the break.
Hello, ever thought of cutting your TSTT business landline costs? It's simply a smart choice to make, only from Blink. One fixed monthly rate for bundled local minutes, bundled mobile minutes, bundled international minutes, and many free calling features. All wrapped up to save you a bundle. Smart choice, only from Blink. A bundle of joy.
Informing and educating the nation, especially the young ones, about water, how it's won and processed, and how it should be protected are just a few of our major responsibilities here at the Public Education Center. The enjoyable learning environment, cultivating conservation habits, developing healthy relationships, and giving our public an appreciation of the environment in which we produce water. WASA's PEC, the region's only public education center on water.
Caledonia AIA, they were held to a 0-0 draw by Honduran outfit CD Marathon in their CONCACAF Champions League encounter. AIA needed a win after suffering a 3-1 loss in their first match of the competition, but Jamal Shabazz and his men had to settle for a share of the points following a host of missed chances at the Atoboldum Stadium in Couva. The Morval Laventil team is eager for success in the league to further justify the confidence placed in them by stakeholders, including the Sports Company of Trinidad and Tobago, as well as the Honorable Anil Roberts, Minister of Sport. Prior to the match, we caught up with owner and head coach Jamal Shabazz, and he put that support into perspective.
Caledonia AIA did the work on the field to qualify for the CONCACAF Champions League by becoming Caribbean champions. Off the field, the club has received financial, logistical and developmental support from governmental agencies. Coach Jamal Shabazz is confident that support will continue regardless of the results in the Champions League.
The Ministry of Sports and the Sports Company have been outstanding in their support for the clubs in the Pro League, for the Professional League, for football in general. I think there are some differences of opinion with them and the TTFF now that is not huge. It can be resolved, you know. And I think both the Ministry and the Sports Company are in their right to demand, you know, high performance, because we're in the business of high performance. But there's a time and a period to prepare. You know, we saw in the Olympics the results coming out of 4 to 6 years preparation. And I think, you know, one can only judge the teams that participate in the CONCACAF Champions League and their results based on the foundation, based on the preparation. I think this is a new atmosphere for us. We've got to go out there and produce and give it our best shot, but it is a work in progress.
The record of the Honorable Anil Roberts, Minister of Sport, as an athlete and coach is well known. And Shabazz believes the sporting fraternity is fortunate to have a person with his credentials in that position.
The Minister of Sport, being a former athlete, being a coach, I think he understands this. I think, you know, he doesn't get the credit that he deserves based on what he brings to the table as a Minister of Sport. I think, you know, very few ministers of sports before him has had what he brings to the table as a minister. So I'm confident that he will see the need to continue to support.
Caledonia has 2 more games in the group stage of the Champions League, and Shabazz is determined to make it to the next round despite the slow start.
When the good thing about Caledonia is that I can't get fired. So I could make the experiment and do the crazy things. And this is how I develop as a coach. Caledonia has helped me, because I would make all kind of crazy, stupid experiments on the pitch. And then when it works, it's good, we develop. So if we have to finish the game with 5 strikers to get a point, we're going to try to do that. So, you know, we're going to throw everything in it. The result is with Allah. The effort is with us. So we're going out there to make an effort, to make a good performance, and then the results will come.
Caledonia's next Champions League match will be against the Seattle Sounders on August 30th at the Atherbolden Stadium in Vancouver. Anything less than a win will put a virtual end to their campaign. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
More news after the break.
There's a spark of greatness in each of us. That spark is called personality. Individual gifts and talents provide the fuel to set that spark ablaze. Each child has the right to an education which values their personality and nurtures their talents, while teaching them to be respectful to their parents and their cultures.
Minister of Local Government, Dr. The Honorable Suraj Ratan Rambachan, says his ministry is seeking to increase employment opportunities across the nation at the various regional corporations. This, he says, as government is aiming to get value for money from its job creation programs.
Job creation is said to be on the rise at the various regional corporations through the Local Government Ministry. According to Local Government Minister Suraj Ratan Rambachan, it's part of the plan to get more developmental work done. The minister adds that his administration has approached Finance Ministry to release funds for the commencement of this initiative.
I have asked corporations to use last year's allocation. Let's say they got 15 million in a corporation for development funds, to use the last year allocations and to do their detailed estimates and have it to me by the middle of September. When I get those detailed estimates by the middle of September, then my engineers here are going to be able to check it out. So when the budget is passed, we will immediately approach the Ministry of Finance for releases in order to get work started. So instead of work starting in January of next year, work will start in October of this year. So I've changed the processes by which we are doing these things in order to stimulate work.
He says the project will utilize the URP together with various community projects as his ministry seeks to stimulate the economy through job creation.
I have also started 199 community projects, and these are projects between $100,000 and $500,000, below $500,000, which are tendered out to contractors. And all those projects are going on right now throughout the country. So within 1 month, and this is why you are seeing so many people employed at the moment, is because that means 199 and 120 is 319 projects in 5 weeks.
Minister Rambachan notes the rebranding of the URP as more than a job creation entity, but an agency that adds value to the economy.
We have to give value to that, and we must value the fact that others are making sacrifices so that we can be employed. So I'm trying to change the philosophy, the belief system of people who work in the URP program, so they understand the importance of value-added contributions in terms of the building of the economy.
Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you so much for joining us.